Are you already on Wikisana?
Hello, dear viewers. It's great to have you back with us in the format of NaturalMEDICINE. Today we have an important, an essential topic. We have our feet as subject. On the feet we walk, we stand, we move. We can't move forward without our feet. Today we want to look at how we can deal with foot malpositions or what we can do for our feet to eliminate these foot malpositions. Stay tuned for this conversation. We'll start in a moment. Dear Karl Müller, it's great to have you here. Thank you very much. You are a diploma engineer and a motion scientist. I have learned a lot about the motion device from you. I'm glad you're back and you're going to tell us about flat feet or foot malpositions in general, how they arise and how to eliminate them ideally. Or maybe even prevent them. Where or how do flat feet arise? I'm not affected, so I can't talk.
Thank God you're not affected. Exactly, because when you have foot malpositions, it's very uncomfortable, especially when you're standing. You can't stand for long, your feet hurt. And you asked where they come from. Most small children, or practically all small children, have flat feet. So the human being actually comes into the world with flat feet.
Okay, that's right. If you think of a foot, a baby foot.
They are pretty flat when they stand. A flat foot is on the one hand a bent foot, that is, the foot bends inwards, and a vertical foot. And the combination of a bent foot and a vertical foot is a flat foot. And most people call it a flat foot and technically a bent vertical foot. The foot develops over the first few years to a normal foot. We call it a normal foot if it has a certain curve. There is also too much curve, which is called a hollow foot. When you have wet feet in summer and step on the dry ground, the hollow foot only prints the forefoot and the heel. And nothing in between.
So in the middle there is nothing.
In the middle there is nothing. A normal foot is when there is a connection line between the heel and the forefoot. And with a flat foot, there is actually a spot. Everything is below. And if the foot develops over the first 5 to 6 years and is still a flat foot, it remains a flat foot.
But how does it happen? Is it a natural development or a natural foot shape? How would it be healthy? What is wrong?
It is because of the activation of the muscles. Almost all people have seen a skeleton in physiotherapy or at the doctor. All bones are just hanging there. A skeleton has no flat foot or normal foot or hollow foot. Everything is just hanging there. The bones are connected with wires because the ligaments, muscles, and tendons are missing. The shape of the foot is achieved by the ligaments, muscles, and tendons.
Die Form des Fußes ergibt sich durch Bänder, Muskeln und Sehnen.
I ask so stupid or so naive, because how does it develop? How can we ensure that the child develops a normal foot with which he can walk as well as possible for a long time? What can parents do to ensure that their children develop well?
Barefoot walking, only barefoot walking on hard ground is not good. I have 11 grandchildren and have raised 7 children. I know a little about the foot care of the children. You should not wear boots too often, if then in wet grass, sure, but it prevents the movement of the ankle. The lower leg, the calf muscle and the shin muscle move the ankle and thus the foot. This also strengthens the feet. Barefoot walking in nature would be the best for children. You should really look at it all barefoot on a thick carpet where the feet can work properly. Because the work of the feet is the training of the feet, and that creates the healthy natural foot.
If it comes to flat foot, or if it remains a flat foot, if you say children have the flat foot first, if it remains, I assume it is also associated with pain.
It is usually not associated with pain on the feet, only when you stand longer. When you are an adult and have flat foot, then the main symptom is that you can't stand for a long time. You get heavy feet, the sole of the foot hurts. It can also develop into plantar fasciitis later. This is inflammation of the plantar fascia, heel spur and such things. They do not only occur with flat foot, but with flat foot tend to be more. The main problem in the form of pain is painful feet just from standing for a long time. But it has consequences. Those who have barefoot have in most cases in old age X legs. So flat foot, they bend inwards. And if the feet don't have this spring effect, the feet are this foot cavity, the longitudinal cavity. We speak of the longitudinal cavity on which the leg stands. The longitudinal cavity should be like a bridge, the leg is on it and then due to dynamically walking, the legs are on it and then the leg axis always aligns itself after this dynamic movement of the feet and the leg axis remains straight for life. Immer nach dieser dynamischen Bewegung der Füße aus und bleibt auch, die Beinachse bleibt dann das Leben lang gerade. Straight means the connection from the hip joint to the ankle joint, that is the joint in the foot below. Gelenk zum Sprunggelenk, das ist das Gelenk im Fuß unten. If you draw a line here, the middle of the knee joint goes through this line. If the knee joint is within this line, then you speak of X legs. If it is outside this line, then you speak of O legs. And if the leg axis is straight physiologically means from the point of view of nature, right or optimal, then the center of the knee joint is exactly on this line, hip joint, ankle joint. Ist das Zentrum des Kniegelenks genau auf dieser Linie, Hüftgelenk, Sprunggelenk. If the feet are constantly bending inwards for a lifetime, then the knees also bend inwards, and this is super optimal, because then there is an overload of the outer meniscus in X legs, and then you have gonadrosis, which is arthrosis in the knee area, especially on the outside, although arthrosis is not the big problem, it is simply the overload of the meniscus.
Und halt Gonarthrose, das ist Arthrose im Kniebereich, vor allem auf der Außenseite. Wobei die Arthrose nicht das große Problem ist, ist einfach die Überlastung der Menisken. Das sind
These
so
are discs
Scheiben,
which you have inside and outside the knee or around it.
Knie oder respektive rundherum.
But then you
Man
speak of
spricht
outer
auch von
meniscus and inner
Außenmeniskus
meniscus.
und Innenmeniskus.
They are overloaded if the leg axis is not straight, and this depends mainly on the feet, on the health of the feet.
Von den Füßen ab, von der Gesundheit der Füße.
And this
Und
longitudinal
dieses
cavity is like a
Längsgewölbe ist
bridge.
wie bei einer Brücke.
Every bridge has a cavity, because if you go over it, it pushes outwards and the bridge does not fall together.
Die Brücke, wenn man oben drüber geht, dann drückt das nach außen und die Brücke fällt nicht zusammen.
If the bridge has
Wenn die
already
Brücke
fallen
schon
together, then it is also
zusammengefallen
much weaker.
dann ist das auch viel schwächer.
A bridge with a bow is much stronger than one without a bow, which has less load and all the loads go to the knees, to the hips, it gives support and bends forward.
Und die ganzen Lasten gehen dann in die Knie, in die Hüfte, da gibt es Schonhaltungen, beugt sich nach vorn. Das
It all
hängt
depends on the
alles mit den
feet.
Füßen zusammen.
You can already see it, as you have now explained, O-legs and X-legs, that is already logical. There is a very enormous lack of stability in the movement system, in our extremities, and somewhere it has to be compensated.
Whether the legs bend inwards or outwards, this is also a question of the muscles.
Das ist auch wieder eine Frage der Muskulatur.
The neuromus fascia, including the control of the muscles.
Die Ansteuerung inklusive der Ansteuerung der Muskulatur.
And if you do balance training, for example, then you can also correct the leg axis. With balance training, you can also correct the feet. I keep experiencing that our customers have completely normal feet after a year.
Dass die nach einem Jahr einen völlig normalen Fuß haben.
They had flat feet after a year, now the feet are completely normal.
Völlig normal.
And you hardly start with this elastic, springy walking, you can also stand for much longer.
Kann man auch schon viel, viel länger stehen.
And with time, if you do this 8 hours a day, every day, in a year, the flat feet become completely normal physiological feet.
Werden die Plattfüße zu ganz normalen physiologischen Füßen.
And the leg position can also be regulated again.
Also the leg position, O-legs, X-legs, is then automatically regulated with the regulation of the feet. I brought something with me, where you can see what happens when the feet move so rolling, elastic springs.
Oder was passiert, wenn sich die Füße so abrollend, elastisch federnd bewegen.
And that's 20,000 steps per day, 10,000 steps per day, 5,000 steps per day.
10.000 Schritte pro Tag, 5.000 Schritte pro Tag.
Then this is a huge training for the feet.
Ein enormes Training der Füße aus.
Then let's take a look at what you brought with you.
Ja, genau.
So you can see the feet now on an elastic springy floor.
Jetzt auf einem elastisch federnden Boden.
This is how they would actually move in nature on grass, on soft grass.
Auf weichem Rasen.
If it has hard stones, then of course you don't roll off like that, then you go forward.
Nach vorn, aber
But the most pleasant and also the best movement for the feet is rolling off on soft elastic ground, moss, grass, meadow.
das Abrollen auf weich elastischem Boden, Moos, Rasen, Wiese.
Then you go like this and you can imagine that there is the whole foot musculature.
Dass da die ganze Fußmuskulatur.
Ja, absolut.
We have about 30 muscles on our feet, depending on what you count, more than 30 muscles and over 30 fine bones.
Okay.
Und über 30 feine Knochen.
There are the toes, the middle foot, the heel, the upper ankle, the lower ankle.
Fersenbein, oberes Sprunggelenk, unteres Sprunggelenk.
The foot is highly flexible and elastic.
Beweglich und elastisch.
It wants to move elastic springy.
Elastisch federnd bewegen.
And if you go on flat, hard ground in shoes that may even have a heel, these shoes are now suboptimal. They are very nice, but if you don't always do that, you don't always have to go like that.
Suboptimal, die sind zwar sehr schön, aber wenn du das nicht immer machst,
Mache ich nicht immer.
man muss ja auch nicht immer so gehen.
But in between, the training goes faster, the more you go like that.
Das Training geht schneller, je häufiger man so geht.
And our shoes are built in such a way that you have a thick sole.
Yes, we are talking about the shoes that you have developed.
Exactly, I developed them. The foot goes in there, exactly this material. In the sole is exactly this elastic, springy, soft elastic material. Then the foot sinks so deep and fights its way through this material, as you can see here. Although the fight is relative because it springs back. So it's very, very pleasant. It's just as pleasant as you can see here. But more important than pleasant is of course that it has an effect. It has a muscle training effect and can form a normal physiologic foot from a flat foot. And then also align the leg axis. And a lot more. It also dampens, of course. It activates the muscle tension. It activates the small muscles, increases the body tension. And the body tension in turn generates a shock absorber for the joints. You can imagine. Ankle joints, knee joints, hip joints. That works like a shock absorber.
But the sole is the same everywhere, or are there different zones? That you say at one point the material, the sole, is perhaps harder and at other points less. I assume it's continuous.
The hardness is the same, respectively. You can't talk about hardness if it's so soft and elastic. But this trampoline effect is the same everywhere. But the sole gets thinner at the front. That has to be the case. If the sole was as thick at the front as it is at the back, you would get stuck. That's not possible. A shoe always has a so-called bounce. The shoe always goes a little forward at the front. So you wouldn't get stuck on the carpet and everywhere. It gets thinner at the front, and that makes sense. Because the surface of the heel is the smallest at the back. At the back you have a greater pressure. At the front the foot is wide and you need much less thickness to get the same surface pressure. That's how it's calculated. You have the same surface pressure on the whole foot.
Yes. What I understood from your shoes is that you imitate the natural or the walking on natural ground, like grass or moss or whatever, for the purpose that the physiology, all the muscles it has, and the ligaments and everything that goes with the movement apparatus, that it is also used. Because our body is such an energy-saving instrument, that it is not used, that goes back. I notice it now. I had a wrist fracture in November. And I notice now, because of the plaster and not moving it for weeks, how withered it is after a few weeks. And how demanding it is to get the whole thing moving again.
Exactly. It sticks. The fasciae stick together if you don't use them. And you said it well. The body has a kind of comfort principle. It is looking for a way to save energy. Yes, energy saving. It probably has to.
It is used in abundance all day long.
Yes, exactly. For digestion and everything. Exactly. It saves energy. And if you observe people on the street, the foot, because the floor is flat everywhere. Hard and flat. It could be hard and uneven. That would be a challenge for the foot. But because it is hard and flat, you automatically put one foot in front of the other. And you don't actually use your feet anymore. You use your hip. That would be a different topic. How the human walk works in our latitude. It should work so that you don't get back, hip, knee and foot problems. The foot can just fall. There is the heel strike, that's what it's called in the technical language, the first contact with the ground on the heel. And then the foot falls down. Why does the foot fall down? Because you don't tense the shin musculature too much. You tense it minimally. Then there is a small hit here and then the foot falls down. And that 1,000,000 times in the course of life. 50 years, 50 million hits. And not just hits, but simply no activation of the foot. It's not like a plaster, like your arm, but most muscles hardly move. Just like a plaster. You move very little with a plaster, but hardly. And that's why the so-called folding foot is created. And from there the flat foot.
Do you hear that when people walk?
Yes, of course. You don't hear me.
You don't hear me either. My neighbors always say, or the one who lived below me, you don't hear me when you're at home. But I hear other neighbors. And then I think of this loud walk. And that's exactly what I can imagine, as you described it.
Yes, then you are blessed with a good walk. Although you only wear these shoes once in a while. Because otherwise you would also have a folding foot. And you can hear that.
No, I usually walk barefoot when I'm at home. Of course, I also have a level floor at home, but also carpet and various materials on which I walk.
Barefoot you usually walk on flat ground with a flat foot. Unless you have just gotten used to this step. Most people. And then you go forward. And then the foot falls down when in shoes. And then there is this noise that you hear. If you walk like that, you don't hear anything.
Exactly. So if you know that you're walking so loud, you need to act, right?
Yes. Because all people walk on flat ground, most people need to act.
Yes, of course you can't put a meadow in the apartment, or carry a meadow in front of you, so that you always walk as it would be good. You have developed a solution for this.
Yes, in short, they are actually shoes, because you have to hold your foot up. But actually we pinch the rice field under our feet. I lived in South Korea for 20 years. I had the idea of the rice field because I had a lot of problems with football. And I noticed when I walk on the rice field, Achilles tendon problems, back pain, knee pain dissolve in minutes, in nothing. And then I had the idea to pinch this rice field under my feet. Now, of course, this is not a rice field, but it is a soft elastic, springy material.
An imitation of it.
An imitation, exactly.
And how long has it been around?
My first idea, I started 25 years ago. 1998, 25 years ago. And this second version exists, which we have been producing in Switzerland for 14 years.
And of course it is already many times approved by many customers, right?
We have a total of about 30 million customers.
Wow, and feedbacks are probably good.
Otherwise I wouldn't do it. Yes, and it grows and it spreads. If you start with that, then the danger, the risk of addiction is there.
So there are many who offer solutions for foot problems or create. Before I heard about all these shoes, I actually only found solutions that support the foot somewhere or dampen the impact or something else. But the foot doesn't learn anything new, does it?
Yes, the main solution for flat feet are supporting inserts. And that helps at the moment, especially for the flat feet. Standing for a long time doesn't help that much. But if someone has hip or knee pain because of the flat feet, then it often helps at the time. But in the long run it's even worse, because it's like plaster. So you support the muscles. And the more I support something from the outside, the more the musculature can behave passively, even more passively, the less it is trained. And in the long run it's dangerous. In my eyes, it's dangerous in the long run.
Yes, and I've also heard that if the foot takes a natural or healthy position, that you can also avoid operations.
Yes, you should avoid operations anyway. You just need an alternative. That's a completely different topic. Exactly, you should really only do operations in an emergency.
Yes, but I'm thinking of the X and O legs where we have knee problems. If it's very extreme, then there are other possibilities. But I've always experienced in extreme cases that it works if you go in a balanced way. You have to be very conscious in your shoes. Otherwise, if you just wear our shoes and then nothing supports anymore, you may have had inlays before. Extreme O or X legs, you bend in even more. Then you really have to go in a balanced way with our shoes. Maybe also add trampolines. Trampoline on one side, trampoline on one leg, so that you can train the whole musculature on the entire leg axis, including the support musculature. Then you can get the leg axis back. If that's too late, then there is the possibility to take out a bit out of the lower leg or upper leg and correct the leg axis. If you do this operation, then maybe if it's very, very extreme, it makes sense. But then you have to train afterwards. Then it has to be balanced afterwards. Otherwise it comes back. Because ultimately only the musculature, the ligaments, muscles, tendons, together with its control, can keep a leg axis physiologically upright in the long term. Okay. Where can you find more information about this? Or where can you find your shoes?
Our shoes can be found in 40 countries. In Switzerland in the larger cities. In Germany also in the larger cities. On the internet under Kaibun. If you type in KYBUN, then you can go to the country in 5 languages, including Arabic and Chinese.
Dann kann man ins Land gehen, 5 Sprachen, inklusive Arabisch, Chinesisch.
Or also Joya.
Oder auch Joya.
You write that with J-O-Y-A.
O-Y-A.
Or Kibun Joya or Kibun or Joya.
Oder Kibun oder Joya.
There is also the possibility to try it out. In the store you can try it out for 1 to 2 hours. If you are not convinced, you can just go. Or you can rent it for 2 weeks for 20 euros, 30 francs. Or you can also order it on the internet and rent it via the internet.
You also have a selection of different models.
There are not so many models to rent, but to buy. 150 models or more.
Oh, great. I think we have described the topic well. What it is about and what a solution could be. I thank you for thinking so much about our motion device, and that you have found such a great solution for so many customers. In many cases, medical interventions could be avoided.
Yes, avoided.
And we have found out that the health of the motion device starts in the foot.
That's how it is.
I thank you very much for being with us. I look forward to further discussions, because the motion device does not end in the hip. It goes on
To the apex.
Yes, the apex. And everything starts with the feet. Thank you very much. Nice to have you here. See you next time. And I would like to thank you for being curious, for being with us, and for being interested in your motion device. And if you are affected, I wish you a good, accessible solution. And we have tried to convey that today. I look forward to seeing you again next time. And stay healthy, stay attentive, stay vigilant, and stay informed. See you. Goodbye.